Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Thursday, November 14th. Jaguars taking on the Lions this Sunday, right? In Detroit, looking like they're 13, 14-point underdogs. Not a super high over-under, so Vegas, they're expecting the Jags to get smacked by the Detroit Lions. And I've talked to some folks, seen some folks talking. The Jags have kept it close a lot lately. In my opinion, the last 2 weeks, the Jaguars got pretty much significantly outplayed by two teams that are maybe almost as good as the Lions, but not as good as the Lions. And officiating really tried to help the Jaguars win those games. And, some Sam Darnold playing like New York Jets Sam Darnold instead of Minnesota Vikings Sam Darnold, Buster Brown getting the free pick. He didn't pick that ball off. It was a good effort, but he didn't pick it off. And then the Saquon Barkley fumble that, in my opinion, was not a fumble. Jaguars scoring a touchdown off that. To me, the Jaguars have gotten lucky in a couple of fluky games the last couple of weeks to keep it close. And look, Trevor Lawrence ain't playing. All of this to say, I think the Lions are going to smack the Jaguars. I absolutely do. And instead of doing a full game preview for this, I figured why not talk about Ben Johnson? Everybody's doing it. We've talked about him a little bit here on the channel. Talked about him a little bit last night on Club Jaguar over on UCF Jaguars channel. Ben Johnson is the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator. Has been for 3-ish years now. Got called up. Was an assistant there. He's been around the league, right? He's been in Miami, was there for a while, was in Detroit for a while, was in Detroit before Dan Campbell got there. So an interesting potential hire as a head coach. And of course, the Jaguars head coach, Doug Peterson, is still their head coach as of right now. So who knows what will happen there. But if the job does open up, which is widely expected, Doug Peterson, you look at Vegas odds, he's the number one candidate for next head coach to be fired. Could Ben Johnson be the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars? We're going to dive into it. Mark Brunell, he's going to be up there coaching as well for the Lions. Maybe he could come back down here, be an assistant coach for the Jags. Who knows? A little home cooking. But I think Ben Johnson could definitely be the right fit in Jacksonville. The question beyond that, though, is can Jacksonville be the right fit for him? This is an offensive coordinator that has been in high demand the last couple years in the head coaching openings across the league. He's been selective in where he wants to go, and for good reason. There's a lot of coaches that get hired that are one and done. They never get to be a head coach again. And a lot of the time, it's lessons that are learned on the job, or you're not surrounded with the right ownership or front office. You don't have the quarterback in place, right? There's a lot of different things that can impact a head coach's success or lack of success. I think, for one, I would be absolutely shocked if Trent Baalke is still running this organization if Ben Johnson was interested in being here, because Ben Johnson is a smart guy. He has seen the way it has gone down with Trent Baalke. Right? Ugly divorce with Jim Harbaugh. Did not end well in San Francisco after that either, right? It was really ugly. Ugly divorce with Urban Meyer, which is underpublicized because of all the Urban Meyer of it, right? And it hasn't been a great relationship with Doug Peterson either. You've seen the results on the field. You've seen, and probably in NFL circles, heard a lot more of the inner workings of how things go down with Trent Baalke. So that's one thing. The Trent Baalke of it all, I would be shocked if Ben Johnson had any interest in working for or with Trent Baalke. I really would. He's a selective guy. I don't think he's selecting Trent Baalke to work with. That would shock me. It really would. And I don't think many quality coaches are going to be interested in working with Trent Baalke. So he's got to go. We've said that a million times. Said that at least once a year, every year since he's been here. Didn't think he should have been hired in the first place. So if Trent Baalke is gone, and whether they hire a GM and then hire the head coach or however it works out, looking at beyond the front office, could this thing be attractive for Ben Johnson? Well, we know he's going to want an owner who's not like meddlesome, an owner who is willing to do whatever it takes to win. I think Shad Khan has those traits, right? Like, if anything, he's too loyal to a lot of his staff. We've seen that through the years. We've seen his willingness to spend on football facilities, to spend on coaching staff, to spend on upgrading the stadium, renovating the stadium, massive renovation incoming, to spend on personnel, free agency. Jaguars are consistently spending. And I don't think you can blame Shad Khan for a lack of effort. He certainly has struggled mightily to identify the right people to run his football organization, but not for a lack of trying. So I think that could be potentially a fit between Ben Johnson and Shad Khan. I think personnel-wise, yeah, I think that you have Trevor Lawrence in place. You have some decent pieces up front on the offensive line. You have some skill position talent. Tank Bigsby, Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram. Travis Etienne will still be around. And look, I think Travis Etienne would be much better utilized by Ben Johnson than what he has seen over the last year or so here. And he's had his own struggles, but I think a new head coach could certainly look at trying to rehab him. But defensively, you've got talent up front with your edge players. You've got Foye Oluokun, who's a great linebacker. You've got Tyson Campbell. There's pieces at every level of this football team to get you excited. And then there's a ton of salary cap space and draft capital to quickly get this thing moved in the right direction from a 2-9 football team. There absolutely are those things. So I think all of that could be enticing for Ben Johnson. Will it be enough? I don't know. But I would be surprised if Ben Johnson, assuming Trent Baalke's gone, isn't more enticed by this than, say, Washington last year or Carolina before that. Could he be more intrigued by being able to draft his own quarterback? Maybe. Could he be more intrigued by Chicago? Maybe. Caleb Williams. But I think it's possible that it's a fit with the Jaguars. I really do. We're going to continue talking about this subject here, but first, got to remind y'all to check out Underdog Fantasy for Pick'em and a whole lot more. You can use code DuvalDaily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash Pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit on their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. This season, Underdog is running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like Profit Boost. You can pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply Boost to eligible entries. There are tons of options for Jaguars and Lions. Maybe you want to pick one of these running backs to score a touchdown. Underdog has vulture protection to rescue your pick'em. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code DuvalDaily to claim your new customer special of a free pick'em and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncbgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. So, looking at, we've talked about, would the Jaguars be interesting to Ben Johnson? Would he even want to be here? I think there's a chance the answer is yes, assuming Trent Baalke's gone. But is he the right guy? Like, I know everyone assumes he is, but like when you actually break it down, what are the pros and cons, potential pros and cons of hiring someone like a Ben Johnson? I mean, looking at the pros, offensive coordinator wise, he's been absolutely dynamite. Play calling, play sequencing, he gets it, man. He absolutely gets it. And one of the biggest things he does, he borrows from the entire league. He absolutely does. He's not a Sean McVay guy. He's not a Kyle Shanahan guy. He's not this or that. He takes everything from everywhere. And that's brilliant. That's what you have to do in today's league. It's a copycat league. And if you can copy and upgrade upon things that are being done around the league, like Ben Johnson has over the last several years, you're going to be a step ahead of the competition. And then giving players ownership of the offense, listening, communicating, really taking the feedback of your players and what they do well, understanding what they do well, them understanding what they do well, and you being able to synthesize that into a playbook and game plan that makes sense consistently, right? That's been one of the most impressive things about him. He's been very adaptable. He has had Jared Goff pretty much the whole time there, so it's not like he's had to adapt to a lot of different quarterbacks, but anytime you have a coach, you don't want them to have to adapt to a lot of different quarterbacks. You want Trevor Lawrence out there, right? So I don't think that's really a major concern, but he's been adaptable in his personnel usage throughout his time there. Like, they haven't had the exact same players, and he hasn't used the new players they've added in the exact same ways that he used the players they're replacing, right? He's able to adapt. Dictating and reacting, he is able to figure out what you're doing quickly, react to it, and then dictate against it. It's a beautiful thing. Now, one thing I will say, their offensive line has been excellent the entire time he's been in Detroit. It's been talented. It's been really good. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, if he goes to a team that doesn't have a plan at offensive line, that could spell trouble. It could. That could be a difficult thing to overcome for any coach. So the Jaguars have to make sure they have their plan in place at the offensive line. And, you have Mitch Morse, who's a good center. I think he's going to feel confident about that. Ezra Cleveland, Anton Harrison moving forward. There's still a couple spots at the very least that they've got to figure out. Definitely. And then there's also like the questions of, can Ben Johnson lead an entire team? He's never had to do that before. Anybody who's never been a head coach, that's a question about, can they lead the team? Can they handle the responsibility of being in charge of every single little aspect of an entire football team? And do they really have to? No, they can delegate. Like, you have to hire an incredible staff. A staff that is meticulous, that works hard, that you can trust. Dan Campbell has complete trust in Ben Johnson. Can Ben Johnson find a staff and create a staff, put together a staff that he can feel the same way about, so he can really focus on what he needs to be focused on the most, which is, yes, the overarching team, but you hire Ben Johnson, you want him to be mainly focused on the offense, which means you have to have a great defensive coordinator. You have to have a great special teams coordinator. You have to be locked in. You have to be dialed in. Hiring that staff will be critical for him or whoever it may be that ends up coaching the Jaguars in 2025. But look, he's smart. He communicates. He listens to his players. It sounds like a big win for me. It sounds like this guy, and being selective, I think this guy's going to be a star. I think he is. And wherever he ends up, good for them. Hopefully they surround him with the proper tools to win. And it goes well, because I'm rooting for him. Hard not to root for anybody. Coming from this Detroit staff, with Dan Campbell leading it, they just have such a tight-knit group. I love it. Would love to see him here in Jacksonville. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content here, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out jinjag.com/shop, pick up some Duval gear, like the hat I'm wearing right now. Y'all have a good one.